Welcome to our FDP program, Assessment, Accreditation and Quality Assurance in Higher Education Institutions, and a special welcome to our chief guest and speakers. Before stepping into the program, we start with the golden words. Success comes from taking the initiative and following up or persisting. A very good morning. At the first of all, I am gracefully welcome Professor Dr. Renu Bhardwaj ma'am, Director Research, Guru Nanak Dev University. She has 27 years of teaching experience and 32 years of research experience. Her area of specialization are plant stress physiology, biochemistry and molecular biology, plant metabolomics, chemical ecology and ecophysiology, plant growth regulation. She held various positions in university levels like Director Research, Syndicate Member, Dean Life Sciences, and Senate Member, and Director of Guru Nanak Dev University, and Professor in charge of examination at University. The Administrator, Coordinator of UGC Program on Capacity Building for Women Managers in Higher Education, Master Trainer, Facilitator of Northern Region, and Deputy Coordinator and Subject Expert for UGC SAP Project Screening Committee. He was acted as NAC peer team member for Gandhi Institute of Technology, Visakhapatnam, and visited as NAC peer team coordinator to various colleges. He published 3 books, namely Brassinosteroids, Plant Growth and Development, Abiotic Stress and Legumes, Tolerance and Management, and Salicylic Acid Against the Changing Environment. He acted as a peer reviewer of various scientific journals published by Springer, Elsevier, and etc. And he is a program coordinator of various workshops. Professor Dr. Renu Bhardwaj ma'am published 257 articles in popular journals and also 6 papers presented in conferences. She has been honored with INSA Visiting Fellowship in 1999, CSIR Visiting Associateship in 2000, and Senior Scientist Award in 2013 and 14 from International Consortium of Contemporary Biologists and Madhavi Sayam Educational Trust, Ranchi. Academic Brilliance Awards for his excellence in research, Bharat Jyoti Award in 2014, Eminent Scientist of the Year 2016 Award and Ecologist of the Year Award in 2017. Under her guidance, 36 of them completed PhD, and she has completed 15 major research projects sponsored by various funding agencies like CSIR, DST, and DPT and UGC. I would like to request such a learned professor, Dr. Renu Bhardwaj ma'am, to deliver the topic titled Research, Consultancy and Collaboration. Ma'am, the session is over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for a nice introduction, ma'am. First of all, the most respectable Dr. Muthuchelian, Pro Vice Chancellor Dayanand Sagari University and former Vice Chancellor Periyar University, Principal VHNSN College, who are organizing jointly faculty development program on assessment, accreditation and quality assurance in higher education institutes, and which is a much warranted topic these days for the quality education and its assurance in higher education sector. I congratulate the college and the Pearl Foundation for organizing jointly this venture, and I wish them all the success. Dear participants, we might have heard a lot many topics which might have been correlating assessment process, accreditation process, and the quality assurance, how it has to be brought about. And today's topic, where I'm going to share some of my views, is on research, consultancy, and collaboration in higher education. So research, collaboration and consultancy, what are these tools, and how do they empower faculty, how do they make the departments visible and the institution at national and international scenario. So this is a very important tool these days, because in higher education sector, when we see we are doing teaching teaching, we are doing research, we are doing administration. So teaching goes very personal, and it has a personal reputation, where you get the feedback from the students, and certainly it has some limits. But the research by which you disseminate knowledge, where the sky is the limit, and consultancy and collaboration are the strongest tools for this. So today we shall be discussing some of the things which are related with the research in higher education, why it is important, how it has to take to initiate in the higher education sector, and what are the obstacles which are there. In order to overcome those obstacles, we shall be talking about. When we talk about research, when we take it from Advanced Learners Dictionary of the Current English, it means a careful investigation or inquiry. And this is especially through search for new facts in any branch of knowledge. So research brings about innovation, research brings about novelty, and research brings about new ideas and concept, and generates hypotheses on which one works and brings about a solution to a problem. The purpose of the research is to discover answers to questions through the application of scientific procedures. Friends, as we already know that in today's time, we are all facing a pandemic, COVID-19. And this is a pandemic which has been brought about as a biggest problem on this planet Earth. And the human beings, their survival is at a stake. So everybody from every point of view is involved in finding a solution to it. Like, what are its symptoms, how it goes about, and how to avoid it, what are the precautionary measures, how to you might have heard the immunity boosters, and we have to bring about strong immune system. And everybody is talking about whether that is a person from science or whether that the person is from non-science. But everybody is aware of what is immunity, what is defense, what is innate immunity, what is herd immunity, and how it has to be brought about, what are the immunity boosters, how to go about it, how to bring them in our lifestyle so that our immune system strengthens. So these are some of the questions which are coming from all sectors of life. They are coming from all sectors of human beings, because they are all researching on it. They are working on its symptoms. Whatever symptoms they are getting, they are trying to unsolve those symptoms in a point of view for the curative measures. So this is called science, because we have to answer the questions which had never been addressed so far. And these are new questions which are coming to us. So for this, we have to do massive work. So what about what is the problem, why it is coming, how it has to be solved? So there has to be some technology behind it to solve it, and we are to decipher that technology. This is possible only through research. So ultimately, we are discovering answers to the questions by the application of the scientific procedures, because this all relates to science. Until unless we bring science in between, we cannot solve it. For example, the immunity, which we are talking about time and again, immunity boosters. Everybody is now aware of the term vaccine. Everybody is aware of the trials of the vaccines. Everybody is aware of, because so much of reading through media, social media, through one's own sources of learning, they are all learning this topic. So it means that we are trying to solve out the problem. We are trying to address the questions which are coming before us, and we are trying to come out with some technology, whether that is an indigenous technology, it's a scientific procedure, or it's basically going for the drug formation, drug synthesis, new drugs are to be manufactured, or is it going to be towards vaccination, or some vaccine has to be generated. But All this requires extensive work. Before that, finally we acquire for that we have come out with a solution, and there is a solution. So that is not possible until and unless we go for research and we do the study in a meticulous way, in a scientific way, involving all the methodologies, involving all the procedures which had been laid out, and all the standard procedures which had been laid out by the corresponding regulatory agencies. Similarly, to face a challenge, because this has come out in the form of a challenge. The pandemic is before us. We are all doing, the whole world is after it. Every country, every class of the scientists, they are, it's not only the virologist or the people who are working on microbes, they are doing the research, but everybody has shifted its research towards solving this challenge, that we do together some study which could be useful in one way or another way. And in this, all the computational analysts, all the social scientists, all the life scientists, and all the scientists from other branches of the science, they have come out on a common platform to face this challenge and address this challenge and to come out with some solution. Ultimately, to solve a problem, the basic purpose is to solve this problem, and the whole world will be celebrating a day where everybody is looking for a solution, and that is a vaccine or a drug or a medicine or a cure, a standard cure by which it could be addressed directly. And it has not to be treated symptomatically, like the symptoms which we are getting, we are giving now treatment as symptomatically. And to get an intellectual joy, certainly how this solution will come out, who will bring about first vaccine at the world level at the platform, and which country will get the honor, which scientist will get the honor for this. Certainly that is going to be a thrilling experience for the achiever, and ultimately it will bring about an intellectual joy when we come out with a solution to such a problem which has not been solved so far, and ultimately to serve society. So by doing so at the individual level, I have come out, I have addressed a research problem, I have worked on it, I have brought about a technology, and I have come out with the solution of the suffering of the mankind, and ultimately, invariably, the one is serving the society, and that is not possible without research. So ultimately, when we think about serving yourself, serving your institution, serving your area of research, but ultimately this is for the mankind and this is for the society as well. And by doing so, we could increase the standard of living, because this technology, the solution or the remedial measure is before us, and it will increase certainly the standard of living, because now we are all under having precautions. We have to maintain social distancing, we have to put masks all together, we have to wash our hands every now and then, and we have to be very, very careful for not taking the ready-made food, and the food has to be proper under hygienic conditions. So all these precautions which are being adopted, certainly they have deviated a normal way of living. So when we come up with a solution, the standard of living is certainly a qualitative change, a qualitative improvement over the style of living, and by showing right path to society in case of social and behavioral science. And when we do it together with the social scientists and the other scientists, certainly we show them the right path, that now you were doing this was not exact, this was not right, and this is the exact and concrete and focused path where one has to adopt it. And that is possible only through doing research, doing massive work, extensive work, and coming out with a technology solution. So when we see objectives of research in the institutions, in the higher educational institutions, equal weightage is given to teaching as well as to research. Teaching is certainly a curriculum which is given for a fixed time period, and the student and the teacher has to complete it within that fixed span, maybe a trimester or semester or an annual system, or the duration of the degree for which that syllabus was meant for. But research is tremendous, it is infinite, and research has no boundaries to it, because research is an area which has been started and which is being contributed, you're just adding some dimensions to it, but that research area has been addressed world over by number of scientists from number of faculties, from number of domains, from number of aspects, and this brings about multidisciplinarity in particular research area. So this is important for research in their own career. When we serve the higher education institutes, we enter into the teaching faculty. Certainly the promotions, the appointments, or other responsible positions are based on your research achievements. And in these research achievements, certainly how much research you have done, you have what were your topics for your doctoral program, then have you any training for postdoctoral programs, going to different laboratories outside your country for getting specializations with the people, have you worked with the people who are on the similar lines or on the parallel lines, and have you got certain technologies learned from them and bringing them to your parent institutes. And in addition to this, certainly guiding the students, that is another important assignment in the higher education. And we are very active in the research. We have established a field or an aspect whereby we are working and we are contributing. So by doing so, how many PhD students we are guiding? As ma'am was introducing me, and she had certain points to say, like these many research students she has supervised, or these many conferences she has participated, or these many awards related to science she has bought. So all these things, how many projects you have brought about, how many publications you have made out, what are your research outputs which you are doing, how you are doing it with the association of other colleagues at your institutional level, at your inter-university level, or at your inter-university across the country or between the countries. So certainly the multidisciplinarity, doing research, getting active into the research is very, very important for the faculty, because ultimately that is going to be reflected in their own career and for their career promotions. When we talk about research ability, it enables a person to take their share and professional position and to move from there to managerial position. So starting, if we take a arts graph in the higher education, we start as an assistant professor. Then after a fixed span of time, qualifying all these parameters, certainly with the research also as an important tool for assessing the total achievements which had been brought about in that fixed period, the assistant professor gets promoted to associate professor and then to professor. And from these professional positions, getting recognized by your peers in your research area, by your peers, and in your research area, getting entangled with the societies who are doing this kind of work and getting recognitions at those societal levels, like getting fellowships or elected members as fellows, or getting recognized as editorial boards, or editing a special volume of the journal, or editing a book on the research topics. So all these achievements, they ultimately culminate culminate a person is very active, multidimensional, systematic, scientific, and is doing a lot many things. Because when we supervise a student, certainly if we have a research project to work on, we have to maintain its accounts, we have to be very well aware of the recruitment policies, we have to be very aware of the accountancy and auditing, and then other things, utilization, making utilizations, making budgets, and making other things which are related with the project, then presenting them before the professionals and the persons who are there, and then giving the progress reports time to time, and then the final technical reports from time to time, brings a lot of confidence in you for making such presentations at the bigger levels. Because if we are representing ourselves individually in a project, certainly a time will come when we shall be representing our department, for example, at the DRS level or the SAP level, or at the UGC programs which are there to support the individual departments. And when then the larger platform comes for the institution, because a time will come we are at the managerial positions and we are to represent our institution, and that institution is still at a bigger platform. So the learning starts from your research project. Once we brought in about a research project, how to deal it, how to present it, how to handle it. We learn so many things, and there is a learning process in doing so, which prepares us for presenting all these things at the higher platforms. Ultimately, when we do this, the faculty gain power and status through an active research program and representation of the relevant committees. So if one person is doing, that person inside the department is creating an atmosphere. And in that atmosphere, the colleagues, they're also seeing them. The students, they're also following them. And there is a work culture which is generated, and the faculty is motivated. The younger faculty is motivated who are looking at you, and they also follow the same lines. And when each faculty member is working very active on research, individually or in association or as a group, they gain power. And this power brings about their status because they are very active into the research programs, and their representation in the relevant committees is recognized. As I told you that in the relevant committees, whether that committee is DST FIST program is there, funds for improvement in science and technology. So DST Department of Science and Technology supports many departments for FIST programs. But certainly that FIST program is recognizing or searching the departments where the faculty is active in research, and there is a minimum number of the faculty members they have defined. They have defined certain criteria to meet, certain eligibilities to meet, like how many publications, and these publications are in the standard journals of standard impact factor, are they in the Scopus journals, or are they in the other journals which are there in the UGC care list. So all these parameters, they are identified from a particular department, and the faculty, if they are very active in research, certainly they are recognized and they are represented in the relevant committees. And the departments are known as the DRS supported department, or the FIST supported department, or the SAP supported department, or other such schemes which are there for different funding agencies nationally and internationally. There are international programs as well, and these kind of fundings and recognitions from national or from regional level to national level, and then from national level to international level, they are represented. And faculty becomes visible, which is a crucial step for managerial positions of authority and power, because until and unless the faculty becomes visible, like who is doing what. So ultimately, when this group of people who are working for a department, for an institution, that faculty becomes visible. And certainly the funding agencies, they are constantly monitoring and are searching the institutes, because the purse scheme of Department of Science and Technology, that is purely identified by Ministry of Science and Technology. They are identifying which institution is having H index what. So they identify that this institute is having H index up to 50. This institute is having H index up to 100, and this institute is having H index more than 100. So it means that if the institute is able to achieve that much of H index, that becomes qualified for giving out special grants. There are some grants which are bound with the institute who is getting only the H index up to 50, and special grants are there for the institutes which are there for 100 impact factor and more than 100, and so on. So ultimately these H index, because now this is third party assessment, every data, every information is picked up by net, and there are monitoring agencies who are constantly monitoring the progress of an institute. Similarly, UGC under all the universities and colleges is also monitoring its own universities and departments, like which departments are active and which universities are active, and they have made their own ways. They have the softwares. They are monitoring them from their websites, from the institution, from third party sources, from Web of Science, from Scopus, from Science Direct, and all that. So all these search tools, they are contributing for data dissemination to the third parties, and they are recognizing it, doing this work for the government and the non-government agencies who really want that these institutes should be made visible at the international or national level. The place of research in one's own career. When we talk about our personal career, there are extrinsic and intrinsic reasons. So the extrinsic reasons, as I already told you, that the teaching reputation is not that much disseminated as research is disseminated, because that is certainly at a lower level, though there are certain awards for the best teacher, for the good teachers, which are given by the government from time to time, and they have their own parameters of assessment. They get them assessed through the surveys, and through students they take the feedbacks, but when we compare teaching and research, research is a bigger platform. Research and research reputation brings peer recognition at the national and international level, and is the strongest tool for academic promotion and mobility within the profession. So mobility within the profession, like we are having different societies within the country. So within our profession, right, outside the country, there are people who are working in our own field. So daily we are contacting them, we are exchanging knowledge, we are exchanging our research papers, we are studying their research papers, like what leads they are bringing about, what leads we are contributing. So this way there is an interactive program, and there are a number of collaborative programs also, because government also supports. When we open UGC's site or DST or DBT or any funding agency at the national level, we could find a number of such schemes which bring about, like Indo-Japan project, Indo-German project, Indo-US project, or there are cultural exchange parameters whereby they identify certain areas like health, agriculture, environment, and so on in the social sciences as well. So they identify those areas, and they give out those topics on which there is a active collaboration, promotion, and mobility within the profession. Like from one country to another country, we could go as faculty scientists, we could discuss the problems, we can make joint programs, joint ventures, and similarly make our students also mobile, from going from one lab to another lab, and another lab who are working on a special aspect of that particular field. So that field gets strengthened that way, because this mobility within the profession is possible. It's a very flexible and versatile within the profession, which is possible only and only with the research, and it gives a very easy platform for us to bring about international recognition in research, or bringing about your research reputation, because your peers will be recognizing you only through your publications, through your scientific achievements, through your scientific contributions, which are reflected in the academic journals, or in the patents, or in some providing consultancies, or doing or assessing each other's research work towards hypothesis, towards thesis, towards projects, and working on those projects. So ultimately, when we see that the young faculty and the students should be encouraged to undertake research, because once the research environment is created within the institution, the extrinsic reasons which immediately are reflected is bringing about recognition at national and international level for the faculty and the students. And ultimately, for the students, it is possible only if they enter into the research and made a part in their course curriculum, even at the PG level or UG level, or because these days we are seeing that many of the institutes, ICERs or Indian Institute of Sciences, they are offering integrative programs. So after +2, you enter into a program whereby you do your graduation, you do your post-graduation, and you are involved into PhD as well. So once you enter into an institute, you leave that institute by getting PhD degree. So right from +2, you are into a research problem whereby you are given a project, and you're continuing that project at the master's level or at the doctoral level. The intrinsic reasons for bringing about research in one's own career is, first of all, that the person has to be passionate for research, and there has to be a curiosity driven research, like when, what, when, why, how, questions come to our mind. And these questions, because we are getting knowledge constantly from all, there's a knowledge bombardment these days, so we are getting knowledge, but this knowledge has a rationality. This knowledge, how this knowledge is coming, when we see the scientists, they were studying that if it is happening, if this process is happening, they were just thinking that why it is happening, what could be the reason, why it is not otherwise, why the ball is falling on the ground, why it's not going up, when I throw it out, why it comes down, why apple falls. So these were very, very basic questions. These are very, very basic queries of the people who are very observant for nature, for whatever is happening around them. So they were very, very vigilant from that point of view and sensitive. So they had to be sensitized for all these things which are happening around them. And as a result of observing all these things which are happening around them, there was a curiosity, like why it is happening, who is doing it, if why does this thing not happen otherwise, why this is happening in this manner only, why there are days, why there are nights, why there are winters, why there are summers, how earth moves, how. So these are all curiosity driven topics, curiosity driven questions which are constantly triggering the mind of researchers. And a researcher is always a person who goes behind the visible phenomenon, what is happening in front of him. He says that why it is happening, where is the origin of this problem or a phenomenon which is happening in front of me. That must be a constant process which I am not able to see, but I am seeing only the end point. And from where it is originated, what could be the reason, who are contributing to it, and what are the factors which are controlling it, and what are those factors which, if I know, I could control this process, and can do some technology, bring about some technology, bring about some knowledge, contribute some understanding, and tell people that if this process is happening, this is the way, and this is a way you can control it, this is a way you can serve it, this is a way you can avoid it. So all those things are curiosity driven. So this is through the basic temperament, through your innovationness, through your curiosity, through your inquisitiveness. And the second part is being a part of the community of scholars, because these triggers, when they trigger your mind, blocked minds, they certainly open the gateways, and they open the opportunities, they open the questions, they open the solutions to our questions. And you become a part of the community of scholars, because you keep on discussing them. You ask other people, have you observed this thing, I have observed this thing, why it is happening, what could be the reason. And these discussions, these scientific discussions, they help to come out with a solution in one way or the other, because when one mind is thinking on it, one mind is thinking from one perspective, but when many minds are thinking that problem, that multifaceted solution of a problem is certainly bringing from the community. And this community of scholars, ultimately you become a community of scholars, because you come out with a solution by doing discussions with your teammates, with your nears and dears, and with your persons, because you're constantly working on that problem. And then applied research highlights or the solves problems. Problem solving, as I already told you, that requires research. And applied research, ultimately I have come to know that this process is happening, this is a way, these are its steps, but how could I bring about for the application of whom? Ultimately for the humans, for the environment, for the nature, for the welfare of natural resources. how my technology is going to benefit, what are the target groups, who are the beneficiaries. And these applied research highlights I have to bring about. I have to tell that these are the things which are the welfare of these target group beneficiaries, and ultimately they had to be made a part of the policy decisions. And once it comes out in the form of policy decisions, certainly that is taken out by the government sectors from the administration point of view, and at the implementation it becomes a rule, it becomes an act, and certainly that brings about a benefit for the beneficiaries at a larger extent. And ultimately as a form of self-development also, this gives you a satisfaction that you are after a problem, and where nobody has thought it before that, and you're triggering that problem, you have come out with a solution, and this solution is for the beneficiary, and in that way your self-development also grows. You also become self-contented, you feel self-evolved, you feel self-elated, and this gives you a satisfaction that you should come out with searching another problem. If you are successful in solving one problem, certainly you can be a part and mentor other people for doing so. So how to update the research skills? Because this research is a very dynamic field, and in this dynamics, the field is constantly being upgraded with the instrumentations which are coming out, sophisticated instrumentations with the new science coming in, new scientific principles coming in, and accordingly the instrumentation part and the study part, the quantitative and the qualitative methods, they are also being overviewed. So for this, one needs to be in constant touch with all these latest developments, because I could not do good research until unless I am very well aware of the latest quantitative and qualitative methods. For example, if I am delivering lecture today, so this is through IT sector, this is through net. So until unless I equip myself for conducting online sessions, for conducting 2 months or 3 months or before pandemic, this thing was almost a very, very difficult task for all of us. And whenever we were to be told to get the classes on the SWAYAM portal, or because the Ministry of Human Resource had already started online courses much before, and SWAYAM portals and e-Pathshalas, they were offered, but we were very much restricted. Like, we could not think of like this kind of teaching, how could be effective, and when we are not having physical contact with the students, when we are not addressing the viewers, and we are not interacting them in person, how online gadgets are going to be helpful. So that were in doubt. But this pandemic has certainly made us learn all these technological tools, and in no time everybody is so well aware of the application part of you talk about Zoom, you talk about Google Meets, you talk about Google Suits, you talk about WebEx, you talk about OBS. So all these gadgets everybody is learning, and everybody has learned it so quickly that ultimately they are reflected in their outcomes, whether that is an education, whether that is a business, whether that is an interactive program, whether that is conducting recruitments, whether that is taking interviews and making selections. So all these methods are now possible online. But before that, the online method was questioned with so many queries and with so many ifs and don'ts. So when we learn a method, a new method, a quantitative or qualitative method, we adopt it. Certainly we give a new directions, a new dimension to solve a problem. For example, social distancing is a problem these days, but we are conducting this faculty development program. We are all online, we are all collected, and we are all doing it very, very effective sessions, and we are interacting with each other, and we find thrill in doing so. And moreover, we also feel good that we have learned the IT technology for online interactions and for online delivery of the courses, and this can be possible for bringing about normal tutorial classes. We are taking classes these days through online platforms only. and whereby the students are also there. They are also sharing their problems, and we are solving, and we are giving them homeworks, we are giving them assignments, and then checking those assignments. So all these things, all these tools we are learning, and ultimately we have to be acquainted with all the software packages which are there for us to serve us, and we have to learn it. Because there was a time that when a washing machine came, every household lady said that this is going to be very difficult, but now it has become a household gadget. When mobiles came, there were only few elite persons who could use mobiles. Then there were smartphones, only few category of the people. But now every second, third, every Tom, Dick and Harry is carrying out a mobile phone. They all know it's working, they all know its functions, and they are making full use of it. So ultimately, it means that for research as well, for our teaching pedagogy as well, we have to learn the quantitative and the qualitative methods and make them use the innovations which are being brought about by the technology for the IT sector, for dissemination of the knowledge, or for teaching classes, or for doing research as well. Because we know that practicals are not experimentation is not possible, but at the same time something has to be done in this period. So virtual classes, virtual labs, virtual methodologies, they are coming in place. At least the students, they are not totally ideal, and they are not totally, I mean, out of touch with all these developments which are there in their academics or in their curricula. So we have to quickly learn all these characteristics. As well as in research, when we do research, we are daily facing new protocols which are coming for the determination of some biochemical tests, or new gadgets, or new machines, and even the features of those machines which are coming. Sophisticated machines are coming. So what are those features which are adding up an extra information for doing research, for doing analysis, for doing some kind of study, whether that is a microscope whereby we are seeing it, or in social sciences, if you are having the questionnaires, like many people, I daily get 2 or 3 questionnaires to respond to COVID problems. So many people are working on the COVID problems. What is the social behavior, how people are taking it, and how health problems are associated with it, what is the stress level of COVID, how the environment is. So there are different kinds of topics which are revolving around COVID, but the people are doing research on it, because they have shifted to those means, and they have devised certain questionnaires which are constantly coming, and they are analyzing. And you could see a number of papers. During the lockdown period, I could see first paper which was communicated, and it got printed after 2 hours. It was submitted, and it was printed after 2 hours of the submission. I was really surprised to see the quickness of the publication houses, the quickness of the scientists who were writing it. And after that, people were again collecting data, gathering data, presenting it, and compiling it, the existing information on all these pandemics or the history of the pandemics. And the papers were published, like you communicate today and the paper is published tomorrow, because there were no knowledge before that. And the publication houses immediately shifted their whole thirst areas for the COVID solving problems. And now we have more than 15,000 papers which had appeared so far in different journals. So it means that we are shifting immediately, as per time, as per problem, as per the thing which is happening around us, for a change. And all the quantitative and qualitative methods have to be culminated in solving that problem. So in this, we do research process planning and management, because for this, few things are very, very important. First of all, the clear aims and objectives. When we design a research problem, or we design a research project, first of all, the thing, it should have clear objectives and aims. And it's very, very important to do indigenous research, because the area whereby we are living, we are seeing those problems, and ultimately it is the responsibility of we only as a scientist to come out with some solutions, because nobody from 7 seas across will come to that land and see the climatic changes, see the social behaviors, see the scientific problems which the people are facing, to solve them. Because we are suffering on account of that, whether these are severe climatic conditions, whether that is related to natural resources, whether that is related to socio-economic lives, whether that is related to employment opportunities, whether that is related to education sector, or it is related to agricultural sector or biodiversity sector or sanitation or hygiene sector. So that particular region which is around us at the institutional level, as a village level, as a city level, in the urban areas, in the rural areas, taking care of all these things will bring novelty of the project, because we have identified uh, uh, an area which is around us, and that is being deteriorated, or it needs redressal, and we are opting certain solutions or certain measures to solve it out. So these kind of aims and objectives have to be clearly spelled out, to be recognized by the local people, for the local people, and ultimately at a mega level, that project could become a role model for the implementation at the bigger cities, bigger villages, bigger societies, or at the country level or at the institutional level. So anything which is starting from micro goes to the macro level, but identifying a technology where already the much established laboratories are working and we are starting from scratch, we cannot compete with them until and unless we go over them, are having all those resources with us, and thereby we work on that. So ultimately, when we say that clear aims and objectives are very, very necessary in designing the research process, and that should be revolving our livelihoods, our surroundings, or our own regional areas whereby we are facing the problem. And for this, we could be associated with the regulatory bodies. There are regulatory bodies at the district level, at the state level. There are state science councils. So we could develop. Every year they give out certain areas, thirst areas to be worked upon, and they make their action reports. So we could study those action reports, can see what are the kind of research which my state wants for me to do. So once I identify those objectives and present them before world, before the country, at the global or at the local level, certainly that research planning and management will be very, very effective, which could contribute for the advancement of knowledge. And ultimately, in a particular discipline, whether that discipline I have touched belongs to agriculture, whether that belongs to environment, whether that belongs to the socio-economic life or the cultural life or the economic life of the people. So a worthwhile project which has economical value, cultural value, social significance, contributes to the advancement of knowledge in that particular discipline. And a clear rationale for the project, embedding it in the literature. Before designing or planning, if I am coming out with a solution, certainly I have to identify the rationale of the project, like how many people have already worked on it, and what solutions, what measures have they suggested, what was their status, making a status report of all the things which had been carried out in that direction, and where I'm continuing, because it's like a relay race. The people have done some research, they have ended up saying so, and I have to collect that information and continuing it further by studying the literature. So embedding it in literature, making the rationale of the study is very, very important in the planning and management of research. And certainly a time plan. It's not that I make a project of 100 years or 50 years. So it could be made. I had that substantial work to do and substantial manpower to do it, and the substantial resources to do it. But I have to make it a proper time plan, fixing the objectives and the methodology according to time, that like in the first semester, this much of work will be done. These will be the outcomes in the next semester, and the next semester, and the next semester, or on the annual basis, or for the term of the project. It's a 3-year project, or it's a 5 years project, it's a 10 years project, depending upon the kind of the study which is being planned and managed in doing the research process. And for doing so, the budgeting part is very, very important, because we ask many things which are totally irrational, and it is the very much well argued, the budget part, in the presenting agencies. Like they ask why you are asking for this thing, what will you do this, and how you justify it. And the researcher's level is reflected, that the researcher has to be aware of the time and the resources necessary to bring about the project to a successful conclusion. So it means that the researcher knows how to do it, what to do it, what are my requirements, what are the financial resources which I need, and what are the resources which are around me, which I could borrow from my neighboring institutes by doing some associations or some collaborations or some joint works with them, or having joint objectives with them, because these resources could be shared. So this one kind of the resource is there in my institute or in my neighboring institute or with my collaborating institute, and another resource I want to augment. So a proper justification for the argument needs to be prepared for the budgeting, for asking a budget. And this budget becomes very relevant, very important part of the total project proposal. And code of conduct, because taking all the ethical issues, the code of conduct is very important, like who is doing what, who is contributing what, and how to recognize the effort made by each in bringing about that project successful. When we do research, then a successful technology is there before us. We have to enter into consultancy for higher research development in the higher educations. So this consultancy and research, they go hand in hand along with teaching to management of the graduates in the institutes, because consultancy helps in sustainability and development. We are addressing problem. We have come out with a solution, but ultimately this problem belongs to who, and who I'm going to give out a solution. That is very important. So once I have come out with a solution, I have to bring the target group, and I have to interact with the target group that this is the technology before me, and this technology could be used. This is the sustainability of the technology, and for this, if you do work like this, it will be more helpful. So a guided research or a guided problem always helps through consultancy. In this, the knowledge driven growth based on innovation, and for this consultancy, now universities are opting for innovation councils or innovation cells, whereby these innovations which are brought about or are achieved by the institutions to address a particular issue, they are called for the target groups. And for this, the startup programs they have begun, the youngsters they are brought forward to start those startups, to try those innovations, and they could be develop their own innovation centers, or they could develop their own industries or skill-based centers for learning them and making other people learn as well, and starting their own business as well at the smaller level and then at the bigger level. So every state is coming out with the innovation cells, whereby the consultancy plays a very important role in linking up the scientist and the beneficiary, bringing them to a platform, and hiring and reflecting the technology through consultancy becomes very important in these issues, and find solutions to many problems faced by our society and industries. So these problems are not only restricted to the society, for the human, for the mankind, but for the industries as well, because the industries are product based, and these products, how the product yield has to be increased, how it has to be more value based, and how it has to be improved quality wise. Those industries, they do have their own R&D wings, and they are also doing research. So what are they exactly wanting us to do, what kind of enzyme, what kind of protein they want us to be developing, that final product is increased, and what are the temperatures, what are the protocols, how these protocols could be more efficient. Once we identify this, certainly we could call those industries through our innovation cells and consult them, ask them for doing research on their areas, what exactly do they want, because these industries are around institutions, they are doing certain things and facing certain difficulties. So we can always ask them what difficulties they are facing, so that we come out with some solution to it. And when we come out for a solution, we could certainly help them through consultancy with their shares in the industry, because the university industry or institution industry programs are there. They had been identified by UGC. There are certain norms attached to it. Once we do consultancy, the industry has to pay in return. Some part of the payment goes to the institution, some part goes to the worker, and the industries, they are ready in investing also, because there are a number of pharma industries which are making their products, but they want their products to be valued and to be assessed for their quality measures from the institutions. Water analysis, for example, of different lakes, of different sarovars, of different wetlands. There are certain agencies which are working on those wetlands. They want the universities around us to work on them. Even during pandemics, the governments approached the universities for doing COVID testing labs, for developing COVID testing labs, for giving expertise to the people for how to use the RT-PCR, which are the machines used for the testing of the virus. So those universities or the institutions who were working on this, they were having the infrastructure, they were having the machinery with them. Certainly they could do consultancy work for the people who really wanted them. They were from different section of the society, or different parts or different industries as well. Certainly, the consultancy also provides strategic and data-driven guidance to universities and governments globally. Once we do this work, we come out with a solution. So it could be augmented in the institutional policies. It could be brought about in front of their academic councils, the Senate and syndicate, to adopt those strategies. For example, for improving the environment, for making solid waste management, for shifting to the non-conventional energy resources, or for effluent treatment plants. So those kind of technologies could be developed for the indigenous institutions, and they could be implemented right there to solve them. And at the government levels, whatever government offices, whatever government institutions, to be involved into the policy making, these things could be reflected, to be made as acts, or to be implemented at the made a rule for effective implementation at different levels. Research consultancy, the key aspects of it are certainly for the promotion of research. Once we come out with the consultancy work, we are solving the problem. It is promoting research as well, and we are constantly doing research for the better output of it. Because once we do consultancy, the problems they keep on changing their shape from time to time, and so on. The research is also addressed accordingly, and consultancy is provided to these shifting domains of the research. Then research publication output. Research publication output is being assessed by so many agencies for knowing what kind of research an institution is involved into, what are the domains where this institution is rich, what are its strengths, what are its weaknesses. So a complete SWOT analysis for an institution is done, like what are its strengths, what are its weaknesses, what are its opportunities whereby it could be strengthened, and what are the challenges which an institute is facing. That is reflected only through doing research. And what kind of publications they are making, are they in the internationally recognized journals, are they in the Scopus, or they are in the Web of Science, or they are in the publication houses which are recognized by Clarivate Analytics, which is a world-known testing agency who tests the journals on the basis of impact factors and the journal citation reports. institutes. So they constantly assess like what kind of research is being published in what kind of journal, and that reflects the individual's output as well as the institutional's output. And collaborations, like this institute is in collaboration with how many institutes. Recently Nature has made such one index which is called as Nature's Index, and that index, on the basis of that index, they had ranked different institutions, which was called as Nature Index ranking. And in that they had taken only 1 point, which was authors and affiliations. So in that they studied that each article, each research paper is contributed by how many authors. So they gave certain scores. If one research paper was shared by say 5 authors, so they gave 1 point to one research paper, and if it is shared by 5 authors, they gave 0.2 marks to each. And by calculating it, so they had taken another parameter in mind, like their affiliations. The authors are, how many authors are there, and how, where are they being affiliated? Is it a multi-country paper? Is it a multi-institutional paper? Is it a within the institution paper? So depending upon that, they have made an index and ranked different institutes on the basis of that. So here comes the collaboration part, very, very important when such kind of indexing is there for the higher educational institutes, whether these are colleges or universities. Like if I am publishing a paper, is this paper shared with me and some agency, some institute of UK, USA, or if I'm collaborating outside, like these collaborations are with the topmost institutes of the world. So these all parameters, they come under collaborations. And then comes data analysis and conferences. Certainly, they also make a very, very important key aspect for consultancy. And finally comes the collaborations. The collaborations, they involve researchers from different statures, their funding status. Is it multi-country? Has it been funded by WHO or UNO or UNESCO or such agencies which give funds to the multi-institutional levels? And there are different levels also at the national and international funding agencies who fund the projects for the inter-country levels. So country and different organizations, basically the collaboration builds based on mutual understanding, work towards mutually interesting and beneficial research. And a collaborative project is always desired because that brings novelty from one aspect being studied in one country and another aspect being studied in another country. And by doing so, the researcher or the learner is getting exposed to the latest technologies from either of the country. So working collaboratively, and this is possible only with the networking. Like I have to identify my area of research, who people are, where are they, what are they are working on, what can I contribute to collaborative research, and what type of project would I like to collaborate. Or the conferences which had been attended by me in the last 3 years, the last 5 years, how many people I have interacted, how many people I have made discussions, scientific discussions for bringing about an effective research project, belonging to the communities, working groups, professionals, disciplinary associations, and in what capacity. Like can I be involved in as a principal investigator, as a co-investigator, or as a visiting scientist, or like this. There are so many schemes for working out collaboratively which had been offered by the government, and they had to be taken as an important factor to be contributed for quality research. So a research collaboration, when we define it in a proper form, although each team member may be responsible for defining area of research, all researchers should understand how their work will contribute to the completion of the whole project. So we all know the Human Genome Project. Human Genome Project, more than 100 countries were working, more than many scientists, many hundred scientists were working. They were anthropologists, they were life scientists, they were computational scientists, they were mathematical scientists. So they were all knowing that we have to work on this project, we are to work on these lines, and ultimately we are to contribute for the findings of this project. So this research collaboration, each researcher knows their responsibility, knows their own domain, and how this domain is ultimately culminating into bringing about a clear and finer picture of the solution to a problem. So ultimately, when we see the type of research collaborations, it could be within the institutions, it could be with a private company, it could be with the institution, or a person, or with the task expertise. It can be international research collaboration, which could be for the cultural exchange programs of many countries. And when we do it with the industries, there are certain expectations. It has to be market, because industry is basically market oriented. So market aligned courses we have to offer, develop skilled based manpowers, solutions for concerns, operational approaches, feasible goals, placements of the students, equal partnerships, the funding partner both have to be, and funding and infrastructure for making a project effective with the university industry expectations. It could be national, it could be international as well. And finally, when we talk about the importance of research collaboration, collaboration helps to increase one's capacity to approach more complex research problems and gives a chance to work with a similar interested scientific peer group around the world who recognize your talent and who appreciates your work, and brings more transparency and more visibility to you, as well as to your institution, as well as to your research arena. Finally, I would like to give you a small self-perception questionnaire whereby you can try yourself. Like this is the few questions for each one of you. Like, how do you see yourself as an academic? Wherever you are at the present level, what do you see? Where are you? And what are your strengths? Like, you have to identify your skills which are required for you to be a successful academic. And at the same time, in 5 to 10 years time, where would you like to be in your career? I have to be clear, like in the coming 5 years, if I continue to refine my strengths and my academics in this direction, I want to be at this place. And then I can think of, like, after 5 years, if I have to target on this position, what are the things required out of me, what are the skills which are required out of me, and how I have to prepare for those skills, and what are the learning procedures, what are the things where these days UGC has made a very good self-appraisal form. So there they have done assessment for each parameter, like for books, for publications, for learning techniques, for conferences, for organizing conferences, for participation, for books and all that, and they have marks to it. So I can think that if I want to reach to this level, what are the things which are required out of me, where I would like to be in my career after 10 years of time. So right, starting from now, after 10 years, if I want to be at this position, what are the skills which are required, and I have to equip those skills simultaneously, so that when after 10 years I can fully claim all those stakes where I would like to be. And what are the skills and experiences you need to achieve your career goals? The same thing I told you, that what skills I do need and what experiences do I need to reach up to that position. And what are the barriers to achieve? Now, if I'm thinking, what are my barriers? Are they social barriers? Are they personal barriers? Are they institutional barriers? Or they age barriers? And there are so many barriers to it. How to overcome all those barriers in front of me, and what are my expectations as a researcher, and if I have to do an active research, I have to do an active consultancy, and I have to be an effective collaborator. I have to strengthen my research, and as a researcher, what are the things which are required, especially out of me as a researcher, as a I have to identify a problem, I have to develop a field, I have to develop a research thirst area, whereby I have to be known at the regional level, or at the country level, or at an international arena. So everything is possible before us once we make a blueprint or a roadmap where we want to be, and what are the things required out of me, what are the things which are I have to acquire, and what are the experience and skills which I have to augment in my personality. So these self-perception questionnaire, each one of you can try yourself and can make it for you, and keep this thing in front of you always, that after 10 years of time, how much I have achieved, daily assess, or frequently assess that how much I have traveled towards that goal. So that will refine my way of thinking, my way of action, or planning the research. If we talk about research point of view, in planning the research and executing research in the framework of the time. So with this, I finish because time is the limit and I could continue talking. The topic is like that only. So with this, I thank you for patiently listening to the thing. So if you have any observations or you want to add something, you're most welcome, please.